I will now introduce or ask our speaker for today, Terrence Muir Jr., to unmute his mic and, give us a brief introduction about yourself, Terrence.
Hey guys, good evening. Thank you guys for having me. My name is Terrence Muir Jr. I am the founder and the CEO of Qontent Creative Agency and Cut the Cake. I have other business ventures, but these are the two that we're focusing on today, so I'll only be speaking about those two. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Information and Communications Technology. I have several certificates, professional certificates in graphic design, web design and development, digital marketing, some other stuff. So yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Orandi will tell you the rest.
Okay. So just to make everyone in the audience clear, the topic that we're going to talk about today is starting a startup while in school/working. As you can see, Terrence has a lot of certification and degrees and so on behind his name. So he is one of the perfect candidates to talk on this topic, right? But what we're really trying to focus on is if you're in school, like you're pursuing a degree in whatever it is, it doesn't have to be tech specific, or you are in a job and you're trying to see if there are other avenues for you to explore and branch out a little bit more, maybe you're unsure of what the first steps are to take. And that's kind of what we're trying to pull from the conversation today, right? So Terrence, I've known you for quite some time, and I think of you as that individual who, like you always said, you're never going to work for someone when you finish school. It was always about being your own boss, always about running your own business. And at the time, I think that was a little bit strange to me because I was like, okay, why would you not want to work somewhere and like get the stable salary and all that type of thing, and instead going to the risky business of starting a startup, so that part was a bit confusing to me. But as you can see, it has allowed you to do several things, right? Could you speak to what that experience is?
Well, I mean, as you said before, I've always wanted to be my own boss. I mean, it's really a learning curve because since I have no experience working for anyone really, so it's been really a learning curve. However, I have a foundation based on some of the courses that I did when I was doing my bachelor's, because I majored in IT, but I did a minor in business management. So the courses allowed me that foundation to like give me a base, but whatever I don't know, I like seek professional help or do some research.
Okay. So would you say that the drive for starting your own company, like it came from something passed down from like a family, or this was just something that one day you just got up and say, yo, I am going to do this?
Well, I pretty much wanted to always be my own boss because I like having my own way. I'm a spoiled child. So I like having my own way. I like doing my own thing, not having anyone tell me what to do and how to do it. So I pretty much wanted to be my own boss. The drive didn't really came from any member of my family, even though I have a lot of family members in business. My father is very business minded. While he was a soldier, he had a business as he had a protection agency that provided bodyguard services to like politicians and so forth. So he was always the one that is business minded, and growing up, he was the one who was always talking about like starting his own airline. He's gonna be a billionaire and all of that stuff. So, I mean, yeah, so if I was to say somebody was like behind the drive, it would definitely be him. But nobody was really, like nobody, like I didn't look up to anybody or see what they were doing in business and say, oh, I want to be like them.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So it is also kind of cool to hear that you've been surrounded with that entrepreneurial mindset from a young age, and it was kind of fostered by what you saw coming from your father to some extent, but it was like innate to you in a sense. Like most persons, they don't get that. This is something that you either have as a mindset from early on or something that you develop later on in life. But based on what you've explained to us, you were exposed to it from very early, so you're fortunate in that sense. But because of how you are naturally, you basically ran with it because you could have chosen different paths and different avenues in terms of starting a business. So, well, let's get into that. How did you start your company? How did you start Qontent Creative and Cut the Cake?
Well, let's start with content creative. So content creative actually started right out of high school, but it wasn't named content creative then. It was Design 876.
Okay.
So pretty much, when I was in high school, I joined Facebook. I think sometime in 2010. And when they
Okay.
introduced like the cover photo thing, there were apps that they provided softwares on same Facebook that you could have used to design the cover photo. So I started messing around with that and realized that I love graphic designing. And then I started doing more fooling around and say, oh, I love this stuff. So by the time I was finished with high school, I was already not a professional designer, but I knew a lot because I'm a graduate of YouTube University as well. Forgot to mention that in the introduction. So I basically learned Photoshop with YouTube before I even did any professional certification regarding that. So that's where it started for me. And then immediately after high school, I decided that I didn't want a summer job. So I started doing designing services. My very first client was my church. Like they were always having stuff because they were in the building process, so they were keeping fish fries and cookout and stuff like that. So I was always the one designing those stuff and getting paid for it. I had a printer as well that I used to print like my schoolwork. I turned that printer into a business printer. So it started printing, and then I got a cutter and I started cutting up my stuff, and that's how Design 876 started. Further along, while I was in university, I decided that I need to do more with this business. So I rebranded it to brand TJP. So there were two names before I actually reached, well, three names before I reached Content Creative. So when we did the rebranding to brand TJP, I did photography and what else? I did photography to the business then. My father actually bought my first camera because when I told him about what I wanted to do, he said, okay, fine. Because both parents have been very supportive of everything that I've done. Like if I say I need this to start this, I mean, they don't hesitate. Even when they know I'm gonna fail, they don't hesitate. But they gave me wings to fly, and that's what I respect about my parents. So yeah, my father gave me my camera. Again, YouTube, learn how to take pictures, learn how to edit pictures, and that's where brand TJP. But there was a gap in between because I mean it was starting to get hard to balance my time between school and doing that. And then at some point in time I had a 9 to 5. But that was for a very short period. So the balance between all that was very hard. So I had to go back to the drawing board and make my priorities straight. But at the same time, I needed that money from the 9 to 5. But at the same time, I didn't want my business to fail. I didn't want to give up on it. So I had to make a very harsh decision to walk away from my 9 to 5 and say, okay, I'm going into business full time. So that was when I went on my own and said, okay, need a new name. I need to take the spotlight away from me because the TJP actually stands for TJ Production since I'm Terrence Jr. from brand TJP. So I said I needed to take the name away from me, and that's when one day I sit down and I came up with content creators. So we weren't content creative at first, we were content creators. So content creators now was actually a full service agency because by this time I had completed my degree. I had certificate in digital marketing, had a certificate in graphic design, I had a certificate in web development, and I was teaching myself how to do video editing with After Effects and Premiere Pro. So I was an all-rounder basically. So I was the star of my own business back then. So that was pretty much where content creators started. And then when I realized that, okay, digital marketing clients were not buying into the digital marketing services that we were offering, so I needed to go out and get some experience. Then I made a decision to go and get another 9 to 5. This time it was at a marketing agency. I joined them as a digital marketing specialist. I was there for a couple months and then I left. But I learned a lot there because they had other digital marketing specialists, and they were seniors, so they were teaching me a lot of stuff. So I learned all that I needed to learn and went back to my business, content creators. And when I went back, I came back to content creators in September 2019. That was last year, September. And that's when I made the decision to rebrand to Content Creative Agency. And from there, Content Creative Agency has been a full-service digital agency, providing all creative stuff. We have done a lot of stuff. We have worked with a lot of big brands. We have done a lot of work. We have done good work. still continuing to do good work.
Okay, this is an interesting story. But the name that you have is not content in the way that persons would expect.
It's content with a Q.
Right. But you say
Well,
content.
but the content actually has a meaning. So it's
Okay.
quality plus content equal content with a Q.
Okay, interesting. So
Yeah.
you brought out a lot of points in explaining how you started. The one that I want to pick on first is the family background. So you said that your parents were very supportive of what you've done, like through every step of the way, even when it might fail, they're still supporting you through it. Do you think that was very important to your own growth and development, and even to the success you've had right now?
I think yes. I think they giving me wings to fly actually played a great role because they allowed me to experience things for myself. They weren't the ones to say, okay, this is not gonna work out, so don't do it. They always supported every decision I decided to make. Because from a very young age, both parents made a decision that nobody's going to influence what I do with my life. Like nobody wants me to go down their career path because my mother was an accountant at Techports for some time, and my father was moved from being a soldier to becoming a commercial pilot. A lot of people thought that I'd want to become a pilot as well, since I'm Terrence Jr. But no, I wanted to do my own thing, so I chose IT, but I eventually didn't ended up doing what I wanted to do, because when I started my degree, I wanted to become a web developer or software developer, but I ended up being a full-time creative. But me being a creative actually comes from finding my passion, because that was what really happened. I realized that I love graphic designing, and then that one passion led to passion for other stuff, so photography, digital marketing, social media management, all those stuff. So that's what really happened. So I mean, I started a lot of stuff. Throughout this whole time, I started other businesses that have failed. Like, as my parents gave me money to buy equipment, and those equipment are still in my house, like just gathering dust because that business failed. But the main one that I didn't want it to fail was the one that I was doing what I love doing, which is content creative.
Okay, interesting. It does bring across an important point. That support that you need, that support system and support network that you need, especially from the home, so your parents and other family members, like believing in your dream, and they're not trying to pull you down the path that they went on, or trying to live like vicariously through you. They're trying to allow you to be your own person. I think that's one of the best lessons to take when it comes on to figuring out this starting a startup concept. At whatever point you are, like, you can't be influenced by those around you in a negative way, and those people around you who you call your support, they have to be able to push you along, even if they feel like it's not going to work out. They still need to push you in the right direction, and you are a testament to that working out. So I believe others can take a lesson from that. But now we want to touch a little bit on the academic side of things. So, well, academic / professional. So let's start with the schooling aspect. So you said you started out a lot of stuff from high school, and then once you went into university, you kept it going, and your degree was pulling you in one direction, but you said your passion pulled you in the other, or the opposite direction.
Well, not opposite direction, because a lot of the stuff that we're doing, especially with digital marketing,
right.
And web development, actually has a IT foundation. So really, it's not very far off. It's just not what I started out thinking that I would be doing.
Okay, right. So you basically took a different direction, not necessarily far off from where you were planning to go, but it's different from what you had initially thought of. And then you even did, 9 to 5s in between where you are now. So all of that, what would you say you were at an advanced stage in your life? Like, you were very mature, you knew what you were going to do, and you said, okay, I am going to jump in fully and do this at this point? Or did you feel like all of these things had to happen to push you further along to get you to where you are now?
I think all these things needed to happen, because really and truly, I have a very open mind to everything that I do. So, I mean, when I started out this, I was open to failing, but I know that failure wouldn't be the final thing because I would keep fighting. So that's one of the things that kept me going. But I really believe that everything happened for a reason, because everywhere I went, I learned stuff. Even in failure, I learned stuff. Because I did have a lot of failures leading up to this point. Because remember, it was a learning curve. I had no experience. I had to learn some things firsthand by myself. Nobody tell me that, oh, you can't do this or you shouldn't do it that way. I had to learn for myself.
Okay. And even there, again, you touched on it in the sense of being open to fail and understanding that in failure there are a lot of lessons to come from that. I do feel that a lot of times initiatives that come to a person's mind, you choose not to do it because you're afraid to fail. I can speak to that. There are several things that I've tried in life that have not worked out, but I'm still here, and the lessons from those moments have helped to make me into a better individual that I can now move a bit further along with my life plans. And similarly with you, you've gone through all of these things, all these failures, all these successes, but all of them have helped to, you know, mold you into a better individual, a better business person, and so on, right?
Yeah.
So now we have to talk about the, I guess, environment. So when you were in school, was it a case where you were surrounded with people who were all into like the creative thing, so this is where you kind of caught it from? Or was it just a case of you just saw this one day and you just ran with it? Like there was no influence from your environment at all, you just did this of your own free will?
I did this on my own free will. A lot of persons were surprised when I actually became a creative, because no one expected it, because nobody around me was a creative. So I'm the first creative in my family. I'm probably the first creative, or the only creative in my inner circle. So nobody around me, none of my classmates were into this stuff. Probably if any of my classmates were into this stuff, they would be my business partner right now. So, I mean, probably that happened for a reason. But yeah, but nobody really influenced my decision to become a creative. I learned one thing, I saw one thing, liked it, started pursuing it, and then it just one thing lead to another, and I'm here today.
Okay, so did you feel any form of pressure, because like peer pressure, so because all your friends are not into this and they don't really get it and they can't really relate to it, did you feel isolated or anything like that? Well, friends or family or anything like that?
No.
You just, okay, all right, because that's the thing.
I just did me, and even though I was doing something that I was not studying at the time, my friends were very supportive. Like I think I have the most supportive friends in the world. So I don't think even though I was doing something different, something that nobody expected, I still had that support system. So even if I was doing it wrong or failing, like they'd still believe in me and still push me to do what I want to do, because they see that, okay, that's what you want to do. But I think the real thing behind all this is that I'm very good at what I do. Like I'm always learning every day. I'll try to read about new stuff, try to learn new stuff to apply to business and my professional career. So I don't think nobody like didn't believe in me, but nobody really influenced my decision to become a creative.
Okay. And the reason why I brought across that point is, you know, sometimes it's hard for you to pursue something if your friends don't relate or understand what you're doing, and they kind of like make jokes about it or whatever. So I imagine at the time, you know, being a creative wasn't really that popular. So people are like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're wasting your time, wasting your money, blah, blah, blah." When you talk about the family aspect of it as well, is the same type of thing where you're the first one in your family to do this. So you're a trendsetter in that sense. And sometimes that can leave you in a very isolated state. But it's good to hear that you haven't experienced that at all. But it's also good to hear that your friends are there, like supporting you. I imagine when you're doing designs or whatever type of thing that you're creating, they were making all levels of excitement, even if it didn't look the best or, you know, was a little bit weird looking. I'm sure they were there to support you nonetheless. But no, I want to get into your degree to some extent, but because you already explained to us like what you studied and so on, but I do want to touch on more about the influence that had on the startup. So did that allow you to think, okay, this is going to be a very profitable avenue for me to choose, so let me continue down this path, or it had nothing to do with that?
It had nothing to do with that. I think one of the things that I like about myself is that I'm not driven by money. I'm driven by passion.
Okay, interesting.
So it was more about doing what I love
Mm-hmm.
than making money, and it still is, because even though money is a necessity and we all need money, that is why I try to, like, even though I'm trying to focus on my professional career as a digital marketer,
Mm-hmm.
right? I still try my best to invest in other stuff. So even if the digital marketing thing don't work out, I mean, I love it and I will continue doing it, but I have income coming from other avenues.
Interesting. I think we should spend some time, not necessarily discussing what the avenues are, but talking about the importance of doing that diversification that you just basically outlined. So most persons understand that you can have multiple streams of income, but how important is it for you as a startup owner, as a business owner, to diversify what you're doing and diversify investments?
Interesting. Well, it's not a big deal, right? You should know what you want and what you want to do, and you should always go down that path. However, not everything that you might want to do will be generating income in certain ways. So you have to think outside of the box. Like, you have some persons, like, they're doing what they love and they make other investments, such as buying stocks and shares in companies and stuff like that. So there is that. However, you need to understand that, listen, life may be about making money for you, but at the same time, you need to find something that you love. You really need to do that. So even though you might want to do other stuff, or you might not get there immediately, you still need to have options to choose from.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair points. I will now kind of touch into the time management aspect of this. So we can imagine that this was a lot to do at such an early age or stage in your life, but I'd want you to kind of explain to us, like, how did you balance all of that? How did you manage all the responsibilities that you had, like whatever you had to do in school, whatever you had to do at home, plus the business that you're trying to create?
Okay, so I have no responsibilities at home.
Wow, that must be nice. That must be nice.
Yeah. So time management wasn't easy at first, but I did make it through. I'm a lazy person. I'm not gonna hide that. I'm a lazy person. So because I'm lazy and I want to be successful, there was always that drive to, okay, find the easiest way to get this done, so you can move on and do something else. So for most of my life, I've been a smart worker. Like, if I go somewhere and I see people working and I see a smarter way to do it or an easier way to do it, I'm going to point it out and say, yo, do it that way, but you can get it done in this time. I'm that person.
Interesting. So essentially, you created systems and ways and methods.
Exactly. I created a system that worked for me.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to share a little bit of it? Like, just a little bit, not too much. Can't give away all the secrets now, but just a little bit.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about school where time management is concerned, because that was back then. So in the now, right, in my professional life, where I'm managing both content creative, cut the cake, and I have other responsibilities to other organizations, I try my best to work on a schedule. So I document everything that I need to do, put it on my calendar, say, okay, I need to do this. But what more important while doing that is knowing when to do what. You have to set, like, what time can I do this? What's the best time to do this? What's the best time to do that? So you have to look at everything that you have to do, and then you see what's the best time to get it done. Also, you don't need to just choose a time. You need to also set timelines. I need to get this done by this time so I can move on to this. If you get this done this time, then it allows more time to do something else. So that was one of the things that worked for me. But as a businessman, I seek to find the easiest way to do everything. So for content creative, say for instance, we're getting a new client today, right? Everything is already there. We have templates for every single thing that you can think of where marketing and design is concerned. So once we get in a new client, we just pull up on that, we fill in the information, everything is just everything just works well together because we have that system. We have access to we give our customers access to stock images and templates and everything like that. So once they make that decision, we can do everything from wherever we are. We can do stuff on our phone because we have everything right there. We can work from anywhere. We can do anything we want. So, and because of our same system with this, it allows employees to do other stuff while working for me.
Okay, cool. All right, interesting. I definitely think this concept of managing time, it is really important. I like the system that you described right now, and I think what persons must understand is balancing time while you're in school is very different from balancing time while you're professional and working. So for instance, while you're in school, it's all about the grades that you're trying to get and balancing school work, like assignments and stuff like that, versus like hard deadlines that are related to people paying you or not, which will also affect other bottom lines and all these other types of things. So it's a completely different stress. But it's important to understand that you create the system that works best for you. Some people, some people go the route of let's procrastinate until like 11 o'clock when the assignment is due at 11:59. Like that works in that context.
I mean, I was that person in school, so I don't want you to rub it in.
But I'm just saying, for some people that works. For others, it's more about finishing way in advance. But once you get into the professional life, you have to pivot and you have to switch how you do a lot of things. And I think for you and the lesson that you're kind of trying to pass on is, the importance of creating that system from early and the benefits that you will see from that in the long term. So I think we spent a lot of time talking about content creating, but we haven't really talked about cut the cake, right? No, like
people
I said,
might be wondering what cut the cake is.
Right.
So let me just give you a quick introduction. So Cut the Cake is a cake delivery service. Cut the Cake started as my quarantine project, like when COVID-19 arrived in Jamaica. Everybody was sent into quarantine. I mean, I saw persons complaining that, oh, I'm going to have a birthday in quarantine, so no party, no this, I can't enjoy my birthday and stuff like that. So that's when the idea came to me that, okay, since you're going to have a boring birthday, let's make it not boring. Let's deliver birthday cakes to people. So that's how the whole idea came about. And then the name actually suggests what we do. So our customers only literally cut the cake. Well, besides paying for it, they only cut the cake because we do everything. You visit our website, you order the cake from either Price Mart, Mega Mart, or Sugar and Spice, which are the 3 most popular bakeries for birthday cakes in Jamaica. You order the cake from us, we do everything else. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to join the line, you don't have to call, you don't have to do anything.
Interesting. So, and the website is cutthecake.com?
JA.com, yeah.
All right, cool. So you brought up a very interesting point that in quarantine here, this is the idea that you came up with, right?
Yes.
Now, I know a lot of people have been thinking along this line, like, how do I capitalize on this time to create the business? What are the steps that you took to bring you to this end goal to identify that, okay, maybe a cake delivery service will work?
I actually didn't know it was going to work. That's why I said it was my quarantine project. I was just testing something to see if it would actually work. But eventually when I made all the steps, the first thing I did when I came up with the idea was reach out to the bakeries. Say, okay, we're going to do this. Ask them for their price list, ask them for the procedures for specialized orders and stuff like that. Got everything, created the website. At this time, I didn't know this was going to work, but I was spending money, putting all this stuff together, getting everything done. And then after that, we said, okay, let's test this thing. So we were really just testing to see if this thing was going to work. But when we started, we realized that persons were buying into it, persons were loving it. So we had to continue. This wasn't supposed to be something long-term. This was just supposed to be for COVID-19. But that's turned into something different, and I'm really loving it.
Okay, that's good that you're having all this success. And again, it's interesting the fact that it's just something you're trying. Like you didn't even know it was
Put it this way. The food delivery industry across the world is growing rapidly. It's in a rapid growth stage of its life cycle right now. Right? Here in Jamaica, I don't even want to join a line to buy food anymore. I order everything. So
Yeah.
I was just taking the same approach with cakes because some of our competitors, we have competitors, by the way. We're not the only person delivering cakes.
Right.
So places like Quick Plate and Seven Crave and stuff like that, they deliver birthday cakes as well. However, they don't deliver all the cakes from these places because they deliver on a bike. We use a car.
I see. So this is now how you made yourself different from your competition. I assume you've done the competitor analysis and all of the business type things that you have had to do to get to this point. So that's good. And this brings up the interesting point. It's not just about having the idea, it's also about how will you make that idea successful. And you took the steps necessary to look at the market, understand what the market is saying and what's happening, and here you are now. We do have questions coming in from people in the audience, but I will hold them for the end segment. So in a few minutes we'll get to them, so just hold on. We're now going to touch on a very important topic. We're now going to talk about the feeling of wanting to stop. So sometimes failure will hit you and it's really hard and you just don't know where to go from there. Basically hit rock bottom. Now, have you ever felt that way in your entire time that you've done this?
Many times.
All right.
Yeah,
when that has happened, what did you do?
Well, it's not a case where failure hit. It's a case where there is just too much work. Or okay, so as a creative, working on a lot of stuff, working on a lot of people, you get creativity drained sometimes. So that's the only time for me where I want to stop, right? That's the only time for me where I want to stop. So when I feel that way, I just take a break. Say okay. Like sometimes I really turn to the towel and say, okay, this client can go on because the stress is not worth it and stuff like that. And as a creative, we work with a lot of people that don't know what they want. That's another stress by itself.
Right.
So that sometimes is really the straw that breaks the camel back. So yeah, so that sometimes is the only reason why I want to stop. So, but what I do, I'm very self-motivated. So I talk to myself a lot. I talk to myself more than I talk to people. I'm not afraid to say that. Okay. So when I feel that way, like I'll just go through that phase, and then at some point I say, hey, wake up! Like, are you this? You're the boss. You're the creative. You're the best at what you do, so you can do this. So get your ass up and get to work. And then I say, okay, all right, Terrence. And then I start working again. But this time I try to take a different approach. So what I do, this time I take a different approach. So what I do, I would try to work at some time different, like at night. Like I like working at night, especially like about 1, 2 o'clock when the place is really still. So at that time of the night, you take a nap, you get up by that time and say, okay, I'm gonna do some work, play your music, get some drinks and snacks, and you dance, your music and thing, and you start working. So that kind of helped to delay all that stress. You're bringing back yourself to work. So you're basically restarting what you were doing in the first place, but you're just taking a different approach to see if it will work.
Okay.
But music makes everything better.
That is true. This is very true. This is interesting because you essentially have explained that, when you hit the rock bottom or when you failed at something, you motivate yourself to keep going and to push yourself further along. And you kind of highlighted the importance of doing that. I do feel that when persons take on certain initiatives, it's important that you can push and motivate yourself. If you're seeking the motivation from others, you might not get it. And that will kind of allow you to kind of stop and settle for less. But if you're able to push yourself, pick yourself up and push yourself along, you will be, you'll get to a level of success that you want, and you can even push yourself beyond what you've imagined. And then we talk about the work process. So you're saying 1, 2 a.m. in the morning. I know a lot of people don't, can work with that because some people have to work within the earlier hours of the day, like regular people.
That's the benefit of being your own boss. You work when you feel like.
All right, there's a point. I can attest to that myself, that there are hours in the day when you have to find that it's quiet for you and you can work in that time. So for me, it's either early morning or late night. So I can do, if I wake up at 5 to like, sorry, between 5 a.m. and maybe 8, I can do the best work ever, right? If it's late at night, between 1 to 3, well, 12 to 3 a.m., it's also a very good time to like figure out anything. So anything from the day before that was kind of heavy on my mind and I couldn't figure it out at those times, I'm able to just solve whatever problem it is really easy. And it's important that you identify, those quiet times in the day that you can really think and focus. And then you touch on the music. Now, I'm a big promoter for that in the sense of music helps you to focus in different ways, but it's about the kind of music that gets you going. For you as a creative, I imagine that's a specific type of music. And for everybody, you have your own type of sound that you're interested in. Some people like silence, some people like noise. Now, it's important that you identify that and work with it, because that will also help to drive you along when it comes to moments when you feel a bit stuck or you feel a bit dumb in some sense.
Okay,
now,
so hold on a minute. So
okay.
for creatives, like certain things might give you ideas. So you might hear just a line of a song or a word of a song, and you can turn that into a whole idea or a concept to a brand. So it's it's a bit different.
Okay. So it's about, so you'd use music as a way to find inspiration for things that you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this actually feeds into the next question I was going to touch on, of mental health. So in this time, in this year of 2020, that we've seen several different things happen, several things that we haven't imagined. I saw on Twitter the other day that technically we only had like 2 months outside and the rest of the year we spent it in lockdown, which was crazy to me to think of, and the year is almost over. It has been a year where mental health has come to the fore, in the sense of, there's a lot of stuff going on and people don't know how to deal with it. Now, let's talk specifically in terms of starting the startup. Like starting the startup or keeping it going. How did you manage your mental health throughout this whole time? We're talking from when you were young to even right now.
Well, I mean, managing my mental health wasn't always easy, because you're not just managing like this. I mean, there are other stuff affecting you mentally. So it wasn't always easy growing up. But since I've been in business, I've learned that I can't always be working. I have to make time for me, right? So I try my best, like even though I work a lot, I try my best to ensure that I have me time. I have time to spend with my family, time to spend with my friends. I'm a very adventurous person. So sometimes I have a long week, instead of like going home and say, okay, continue working, I just take a break. So, okay, let's go paintball shooting or something. Yeah, that's me. I'm a very adventurous person. I always try to make time for me. So if you don't overwork yourself, like you can work all you want, but don't overwork yourself. Always try to make some time for yourself. It is even a day or a couple hours. Do whatever, like do something you enjoy, because mental health is very serious, guys, and you have to always be mentally ready for whatever is to come. So you can't things might happen, and you have to always be prepared for it. So you can't afford to be burnt out like all the time. You have to ensure that, okay, I need me time for me to do this, time to enjoy yourself, have a drink with your friends, play some video games, something, but don't always feed into work.
Okay, and that's a very interesting point that I also need to take from you, of you need to know when to stop working, but we'll not focus on that run right now.
Yeah, you need to know.
But you touched on the important point of like finding that me time, and how you spend that me time is important. So you spend it with friends and family, and you just kind of chill away from the regular things that you do every day, which helps to fuel you and keep you going.
But even sometimes that don't work, because I'm that person. I'm always working. So even when I'm chilling, I'm working. So I might not be like doing any hardcore stuff, but I'm doing something on my phone that's work related. So even me don't know when to stop, but you have to know what to do when.
Interesting. Okay. All right. We'll take that point. So would you say that what you're doing now, so that the other facets of your life, like your spiritual side and emotional side and all these other sides of your life. This is a little bit, but would you say that what you're doing now is feeding into these moments in these other aspects of your life? Or do you feel like, have you ever, well, the question I'm really trying to get at is sometimes people feel like work and things that are their passion pulls them away from other aspects of their life, such as like the spiritual side of their lives or the social aspect or anything like that. Have you ever felt that way? Do you feel that way? Do you think it's true? Do you think it's a lie? What do you think?
Okay, so what you're asking actually goes back to time management.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said before, you have to know when to do what. So you can, even though you love working and doing all that you're doing and you have to secure the bag, you still have to make time for yourself and time to do other stuff. So this goes back to when I say you set timelines so you know when you have a free period to do something. So you can't always let work take you away from everything else. You have to really make time for yourself.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that.
But that might not always be easy. I mean, making time for myself is easy because I don't have kids. But for other persons, it might be a lot more difficult. So you really have to find what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair point. I was just about to ask that, like, what would you say for someone who, they have maybe not necessarily kids of their own, but say they have younger siblings that they have to also take care of and so on. It's not so easy to do the whole time management thing and that type of thing. But like you said, it's about finding that process that makes sense for you to balance everything that is in your life. And one aspect of your life is not taking away from all the others.
Yeah, and you see, in order to find your balance, you have to be open to trying new things because like you have people who are stubborn. They do this one way all their life, so they don't want to try something new. But in order to find balance and to be good at something, like you have to try new ways to do it. You can't just keep doing it one way because you see other people do it that way. You have to try new stuff to see what really works for you.
Right. Fair point. That's true. So at this time, we're going to start looking at the questions from the audience. So anyone on the call, you can type in the chat any question you want to ask, or you can go onto the Slido link that you'd have gotten in your email, where you can also ask a question. But let's start with this question of how long does it take you to get a business started? That sounded like
It depends on the business. It depends on the business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's serious?
So it depends on the business. Okay, yeah. So let's come up with a hypothetical business here. Let's say it's not in the food delivery industry, but it's something different. Let's go along the lines of IT. So again, it's IT services. How long would that normally take? A business in IT services.
What kind of IT services? Again, you have to be specific. So let me give you an example, right? Say for instance, you see jewelry online for a very cheap cost and you want to sell them, right? So you're gonna start an e-commerce business. So what you need to do, you need to identify what you want to do. You need to do your research to see if there's an actual market, see if people are gonna buy into your stuff. Sometimes you can like test the products, buy them and see how fast they sell. So after that, now you got to find out what exactly you want to do, how exactly you want to operate this business. Do you want to have a physical store? Do you want to have an online business, whatever? And then you have to start making those plans. So, I mean, I don't believe that every business that you are going to do, you're going to need a business plan. Right?
No.
You just have to think.
That sounds a little bit weird here, because when you go to school and the business
you don't always need a business plan, right? I mean, I don't believe that I needed a business plan, like if I'm going to sell weed.
Okay, fair point. But keep it going. Why?
Because I mean, I know that I'm gonna sell weed. What am I going to do different? All I need to do, write down my ideas, write down what I want to do, and then I go for it. I mean, you don't necessarily need to say, okay, I need to find a way how to how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to do that. You don't really need all those stuff that are in a business plan to get started with a business. You probably just need to get a business model canvas and fill in all that information and you're good to go.
Okay. So essentially, well, I guess for persons on the call who aren't familiar with a business model canvas and never seen one before, we'll probably have to send you a link to it afterwards. But essentially, you just have several different columns, and you fill in different aspects of your business into that canvas, and just continually fill it out as the idea keeps going. You just keep adding more things to that canvas to make it clearer what exactly is the business that you're going to pursue, and what is it that you're looking to get from that business, right? So I take your point, Terrence, on that. So essentially, it's a case of depends on the business, and when you find out what that business is, you don't necessarily have to sit and plan for a very long time to initiate anything. You can start right away. Okay. So now we're gonna start pulling questions from Slido at this point. The first question that I'll be pulling is, well, we kind of answered this already, but we can, go over it a little bit more. So how do you manage your failures as well as your successes?
Okay, so let's start with the successes.
All right.
So no matter how small a success, I celebrate it. No matter how small, I celebrate everything. Like if we had a successful month, like we met all our targets, we got everything done on time, customers are happy, we celebrate that. As for failures, you just have to like refocus, like go back to the drawing boards, see where you go wrong, and then start all over again. But don't give up.
Okay. And I like the way you put that, because it is the truth. For the successes, I think a lot of the times as individuals, we tend to want to celebrate the bigger accomplishments rather than the smaller.
That's so
things.
true.
So like for me in my day-to-day, whenever I just get like one feature built out properly and it works and it's fine, like that's my win. I'm good. Like, I'm all right. I don't wait until the whole project has been rolled out to be celebrating. I do it from very small features as they're built and it works. Yeah, we're good. So, it's important to also do that. And like we said before, in terms of the failures and how you manage it, again, it's about the learning experience and taking the lessons away from it and less of the negative emotions that might come with that. So we do have one more question here. It's kind of big, but we can deal with this. So it says, what are some practical tips and strategies for managing it all well? Meaning managing your academics and your extracurricular and the addition of a startup project. So now I'm going to ask you, Terrence, to please put your student hat back on. Think of yourself back then, what you would have done.
Think about this one.
Yes. Okay.
Repeat the question.
So what are some practical tips and strategies for managing it all well? So your academics and your versus your extracurricular and starting up a business.
Target. I have to really think about the question.
All right, that's fine. Like while you're thinking of it, I can drop some ideas here.
Sure, go ahead.
So from my own experience, and going through this type of ordeal, it's again about understanding each facet. So I split it up into 3 things. So it's schoolwork, extracurricular, startup things. And then I make lists of things to do for each of these items. And then I say, okay, we only have 24 hours in the day. So I need to know how to deal with all of this. What is the more pressing thing I need to do? So when it came on to school things, it was whenever there's an assignment, I'd have to get onto that right away. But one other thing I kind of did for academics, and this might be the nerd in me talking, but I was always reading ahead of whatever was going on in school. Because to me, whatever they're teaching me this week is a little bit boring, so I'm trying to move along with my life and go a bit further along, right? But doing that allowed me to stay on top of the schoolwork so that I could continue exploring other avenues and other initiatives in my life. When it came on to extracurricular, I felt like there was a time when you had to like draw a line in the sand. So Terrence, from our own experience dealing with each other, we've looked into other extracurricular groups and activities where we've collaborated with each other, and we have kind of had to understand that maybe right now is not the time to dive too deep into this activity because it's taking away too much from what's going on. But we still kept to other things that drove our passion and pushed us forward. So that's the kind of thing I would touch on from that part. And then from like this, when you mix a startup idea into it, again, it's your idea, it's your passion, it's something that you want to see to fruition. So it's all about taking the time to build that out. And we talked about that time management. We talked about finding that quiet time during the night or during the day to work on whatever it is that you want. And I believe if it's something that you're passionate about, you will always find time to do that one thing. So when I was in school, it wasn't necessarily easy for me to do it in the week. Like, for example, today, Tuesday evening, it was kind of a little bit challenging, but I still took some time to do it. If it's even 30 minutes to look on something that I am passionate about, it was enough to kind of help push me along.
Yeah, I think you have said it all. But just to add to that, you have to find what works for you, as I've said before. So you have to know what to do when. So look at your list of items, prioritize what needs to be done this time, what needs to be done that time, when this due, when that due, and then you have to look at what, because sometimes you'll have clashes even though you have a perfect schedule. So yeah, so I mean, it's not gonna be easy to manage it all, especially when you're a student, because anything can happen at that point in time.
Right, and that's the important point of, yes, you can still make a schedule, but something can always happen, and that
especially when you're doing group work.
Yes, especially when you're doing group work. So you have to always be aware of that too, that life can throw you a curveball at any moment in time. So it's important to kind of just be on top of it and, in a sense, be agile enough to be able to maneuver your way around whatever life throws at you. It's not something that's easy. It does take time and experience to learn what that technique is for you as an individual. So it is important to it is important to look into that, and it is important to identify that, right? Okay, we have one more question from the audience. So how far should you take the trial phase of a startup?
You can take it as far as you want. However, where I would stop, like, is when I realize that, okay, this is not profitable to me anymore. I'm wasting a lot of time doing this, and it's not turning over. It's not making sense. So that is why you have to really think through whatever you want to do and see if it's gonna work. Test it with your friends first. Test it with your family. See if it works with them. But once you start like investing a lot of time and a lot of money, and it's not working out for you, then it's time to give up. Time to move on to the next. Not time to give up, but time to move on to the next idea.
Next idea, right. Yes, I would agree with that. I think everything that you do in life has an expiry date to some extent. Like nothing lasts
even
forever,
life itself.
right? Nothing lasts forever. So you kind of get a feeling when you realize something isn't working out. So it's important to just work with that feeling. Don't ignore that energy that you're getting, that, okay, maybe this avenue is not where I should be going, so I should pivot to do something else. Don't ignore that negative feeling that you're having. Just work with that. If it says, okay, it's time to stop doing this and pursue something else, do it, right? It's important to feel into that.
Treat a business like a relationship.
I was going to avoid saying that, but okay, you did it. So you said it.
Yeah, treat a business like a relationship. So once the relationship is not going nowhere, it's time to end it. Time to move on.
All right, well said. So for persons in the audience, if you still have any more questions, you can still throw them into the chat. We can still get into them a bit more. Terrence has provided a lot of insight. We do only have 2 minutes left, but we can still talk a little bit more. So does anyone else in the audience have any other questions they want to ask? Let's just kind of leave it open for a little bit. All right, so while we give our attendees a little bit more time to pick that, I do want to now take the opportunity to say thank you, Terrence. I appreciate that you are here with us to talk about yourself, talk about your business, and kind of get into this, the ideas of, what do you do when you want to start a startup while you're working or in school?
I think somebody sent our next question a while ago.
Yes, I just saw it, and saying, what do you have planned next for your career?
Interesting.
Very interesting question. Thank
What
you.
do I have planned next? Really and truly, my plan is to just keep doing what I'm doing. Try to always create a better version of myself. Try to always improve professionally. Try to always learn new things. I believe I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always open to learning new stuff, and I'm always looking forward to like trying out new things where business is concerned. So what's next for me? Just trying to work on myself, trying to build my businesses, grow my brands, and do me.
Okay, that is good. That is very good. And we do wish you all the best for whatever other initiative you undertake. I giving you the opportunity if you want to plug your socials. Like, how can people find you on social media? I know, but like, how do we find your business pages and that type of thing? If you want to talk about that now.
Well, you can find us at all platforms for Content Creative at Content Creative, for Cut the Cake at Cut the Cake JA. And if you want to find me, I'm Terrence Muir Jr. So TERRMUIRJR everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. I have the same username for all platforms.
Okay, cool. And we will look forward to seeing more from you. At this point, I do want to say thank you again, Terrence, for
Thank you for
joining
having me.
us. No problem. I think you provided a lot of insight today. It's been very informative. I love this conversation. This has allowed me to kind of learn some new things that I didn't necessarily know before. So I hope everyone in the audience also had that experience. At this point, I do want to mention Techports again. So for anyone who might have joined late, again, Techports is hosting events like this because we're trying to make the tech space very inclusive for everybody. We're trying to show persons that, just like Terrence, it's easy for you to think of something and then go for it and build it out and take it to the next level.
It's
right?
not easy.
It's a long road, but you can do it too.
It's only easy if you find something that you love.
Right. So if this is your passion, it's something you want to do, you can do it. And I hope that was a message you took away from the session. I do want to thank everyone who joined us. So if you signed up, you will get a recording of this so you can listen again. Again, if you want to follow Techports on social media, it is at Techports on Twitter, Instagram, also on Facebook, or same thing on LinkedIn. So you can follow us and DM us if you have any other questions you want to ask or any other thing you'd want to see. Again, Terrence had mentioned his socials. Do you want to give them one more time before we go so that you can make sure they can reach you?
You can find me at Terrence Muir Jr, TERRMUIRJR everywhere. I answer all my DMs, so you can DM me on Instagram.
All right.
Twitter, whichever one you choose.
Cool. So thank you again, Terrence. Thank you all again. I hope
So what if they want to find you?
I mean, to find me, well, if you at Techports, you can eventually get to me. But if you want to talk to me directly, you can look me up on Instagram. It's at Orandi Harris, all one word, all lowercase. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I answer my DMs on that platform frequently enough. So if you have any questions, you can always ask there. And again, if you have any suggestions or anything you would want to say to the Techports team, you can find us on social media at Techports, and you can send us a message there. So again, at this time, I'd want to say thank you again. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you for joining us.